Right, so we're just doing the key machine maintenance and adjustment lab here. So we've got our spare machine at the shop, have it unplugged to make sure it's not energized when we're working on it. So I'm just going to start with taking these covers off, checking the belts, looking at the different points we can lubricate and kind of go from there.
Good afternoon. Searching or searching?
First little bit of damage here, just a crack on the safety plastic. Shouldn't affect the operation or function of the equipment though. These off. Next one's down here. First top cover comes off. There's one more screw here. So we got our covers off here. We get a good look at the motor and the belt on the side here. So the belt seems to be in good shape. There's not any cracks or fraying in it. This particular unit doesn't have oiling points for the bearings. It's all self-contained. The adjustment for the tension on the sides here, I'm going to leave it be just because the tension seems to be still pretty good. So next, we're going to do just a quick clean. So we can take a dry rag, just kind of wipe the unit down. We can take a brush to get at the harder to get at parts. So for lubrication on these units, manufacturer recommends a dry lubricant like graphite. I'm going to leave this one be because it's still working pretty smooth, but you can apply graphite to this bottom rod here that the carriage moves on. You can also apply it to the guide here, as well as the jaws. Part of the cleaning, make sure that there's no shavings in the jaws themselves. I want to take the vices apart. Just make sure keep all your parts in the order you take them out. And we can just clean those out. Nice little treasure trove.
Yes, I got the blank on the machine.
Okay. Our spring. First. And the reason you don't want to use the oil-based or the wet lubricants in these areas is because the oil tends to hold on to the brass shavings, and that can kind of gum up the system and cause problems. So a dry lubricant, like maybe like a Teflon base, or usually graphite is what's recommended. All right. Get that. Now I'm going to take off brush. We'll move this over. Fits into that slot there. There's our Allen key. So brush looks to be in pretty good shape. It's a little worn, but that's pretty good still. And then this guy, and this one is a. Ooh, that was on there really tight. Left-handed thread for the cutting wheel. Take the cutting wheel off, just inspect the teeth, make sure, check for any cracks or chips. This one looks to be in really good shape. And then we put it back on, make sure that the flat side of this beveled edge is to the left there. Tighten that back on. Not too tight, just snug it up. Then I'll put the brush on as well. Take that off. Now we can start putting the covers back on. Right, so now we can actually go about calibrating this unit. So I'll put 2 key blanks in here.
Yeah, no problem.
Use our shoulder stops. Make sure they're nice and lined up here. Then so bring it forward and you can spin this. It's actually pretty good. So I'm just going to loosen this off and put it out of calibration so I can then bring it back into calibration. So just spin that a bunch, and that's just adjusting the wheel on this side here. So obviously we can see that's pretty far out. Then I want to bring it to the point where you can spin this cutting wheel by hand and it's just barely touching the key blank. You kind of want to just go along the key blank. That's pretty close. Yeah. That seems to be pretty good. So just making slight contact, not too much. We can just hear it kind of grazing the blank with the teeth. Take that back out there. So now, before I do my cutting, I'm just going to reinstall the safety cover. Another thing you can test is just the spacing quickly. There are gauges that come with this machine you can use, but you can also just use the tracer and the edge of the blade. And that looks to be right. So our shoulder stop here is putting it at the right space. So now we're going to start cutting our generations of keys. So let me just have it. Just grab another key blank. Oh. Still in the vise. So we've got our 1, 2, and 3 blank keys here, and then we have our original SC4 cylinder pinned with 6 pins. So we'll start with cutting our original. So I like putting it in the vise, then pulling it back about 1/8 of an inch. We'll do our number 1 key blank first. I put this one in all the way, then I use the shoulder stop here to bring this guy back and match up where they're supposed to be. Just make sure the blanks are sitting nice and level in the vise there. At this point we can plug our unit back in. So for sure, safety glasses. I also like to use some ear protection because I find it's a bit loud. So we do the off switch on the back, which always turns off when the unit is unplugged. So the unit turns off. Test the power switch. That's working correctly. And test the brush. I always like to cut it twice just to be safe. Make sure the wheel stops spinning before you remove the key from the jaws here. Brush the burrs off. Works nice and smooth in our cylinder. That's number one. Take the original out. Put our number one key into the vise. In between, definitely brush out the vices, make sure there's no shavings in there that'll interfere with the copying. We got our number two.
Still here, eh?
Got our number two here, working nice and smoothly. Put our number two into the vise. I'll cut number three blank. Also working smoothly. Okay, so that's our key cut. Take apart the machine, inspect it, look for signs of wear, lubricate, and then calibrate and cut 3 generations of keys. Thanks.